Hey everyone, welcome to my first Christmas soap compilation video. So many of these videos on here you may or may not have seen, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And why I'm doing two uh, compilation videos in the same year, and very soon, in fact. And part of that is that these soaps, and you kind of see me putting one of them together um, on the screen there as I'm yapping over this intro. All of these are a little bit more complicated, take a little bit more time to do. They're really not hard, but they're involved, let's say. Um, so it's not something to throw together last minute for a bunch of gifts that you need to take care of. It's not something that you'd maybe want to do as a crafting party or something. And the second set of videos I plan to do are a little bit more beginner friendly, or I should say last minute friendly. So they're just easier to put together and plan out, and these are just not. So they, like I said, they're not hard. They're just time consuming. So on to the video that you have not seen. That's in this. There is a video at the end that you haven't seen yet because I never published it. I published the soaps, I published about them. I made a video talking about the inspiration for them and the story I was telling with the soaps. I made three different soaps. You may remember Bah Humbug. I did the story of Scrooge through the three ghosts of Christmas, the Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. And I mostly talked to you about why I chose this and that and how it relates to the story and what was my inspiration. That was part of a contest that Two Auto Tools held, and I was very appreciative um, just for the opportunity, but also I got a prize from it. So that was kind of cool. Um, and they have more contests going this year, but I doubt I'll have a chance to participate. I just have too much on my plate right now. But you will now get to catch up a little bit and see at the tail end of this compilation video, you will see the how to on that one. So I'll give you a lot more information about colorants I used, fragrances I used, etc. So I hope you enjoy yourself. And that's that. Hey everyone! Today we're going to work on making a Flurries soap. Real excited about this one. You'll see the colors being put and all of the ingredients that I'm using pretty much put up on the screen. I'm excited about this one because I'm going to be sharing a unique technique that I use with you and sharing it for free. This is one of those that I feel could possibly put in a paid gate kind of gatekeeping thing, but I'm not going to. I'm trying really hard to avoid that and give you all of the information I can so you can improve your designs and techniques and try some of the same things that I do. I feel like it can be kind of a game changer. It's I'm not sure how to describe this. It's there's a couple of different ways to do it, and this is one way. It's just a way to work with really delicate embeds, and one of the keys to it, I will say, and you'll see me show it in a little bit. One of the most important things is that you're using the clearest soap you can get, whatever that is, depending on where you live and what brand you use. Choose the clearest soap. And also, because it is reliant on a clear look, you want to make sure that both the soap base in the clear part that you're using and the part for the technique are both the same. So I do use, gosh, I know that's not going to make much sense. I do use the clearest soap I have, Premium Crystal Clear from Wholesale Supplies Plus, Crafter's Choice, not affiliated. I am affiliated with Med Micas, and you'll find my affiliate link in my description box. If you purchase from them, I will receive a small percentage at no additional cost to you. But back to Wholesale Supplies Plus and the premium Crystal Clear, the Crafter's Choice soap. Real quick note on what you just saw me pour. That wasn't the premium Crystal Clear, as you'll see right here. Basic Clear is what I used in the bottom layer. And I did that for a reason. I'm still hoarding my clear, even though this is such a small amount, my Crystal Clear, because the company is still it's still out of stock and difficult to find, and super expensive when you do find it because it's not from the company that makes it, the manufacturer. When you buy it from the manufacturer, Crafter's Choice, Wholesale Supplies Plus, you can get better deals for sure. But I do have some that I'm working with for my Christmas designs, and I am being very cautious with how I use it. So even in a very tiny pour like this, which I guess equals about 3 ounces, maybe a little bit more, there's probably a shade over an ounce in each of those cups when I first poured that in, because it was a little less than half. Those cups hold approximately 3.4 ounces, and excuse me. And that, so it was about a third, maybe a little bit more, like I said. So probably a little bit more than 3 ounces for all of that for the bottom. And then I didn't use every single drop. Well, yeah, you see me putting the names of the micas, etc. up. Most of the micas, the Mad micas I used are mostly the more solid color ones there on the bottom. But I did use Blue Moon, which is a spectacular mica if you have not tried it. It kind of is one of those that's a specialty. It's used best when it's put over something dark. It's interference mica. So it's white-ish. It's kind of translucent. And then when it's over something dark, it shimmers a bluish purple. Very pearlescent bluish purple. It's gorgeous. Anyway, the only reason I'm bringing that up is because some of these other colorants I'm using are more bio glitters, and they're from a variety of places. You see, I put the names up there, and I'll put the links in my description. What I'm creating now, the bottom, I'm just created a sky. I'm creating my background. This is a loaf, but it is not done. I'm not using it in a traditional manner of making a loaf soap that when you cut it, the front is going to be your picture and the top is just a little decoration. With this one, you're looking at the top. Even though that's the bottom layer of it, you'll see through to the bottom. I'm creating a picture from the bottom up. When I do that, I fill it about between a third and a half, not quite a half, somewhere in there. Because I want my bars hefty. I do make pretty hefty bars with those. And I cut them, for the most part, I cut them into 3s. I have done soaps where I cut them into 4s when it's a different type of design. But this one is one of my more intricate soaps, and I want a little bit of room to play, so I cut them into 3rds. And as you'll see as I build, this is another technique that I use that I'm not sure other people do. I know I've seen other people using this technique with a swirl, where you're just kind of slowly layering on top of another color and allowing it to kind of mix a little, layer a little bit, swirl together. If you can kind of picture it this way, I'm doing that with all clear because I want to add layers, but I don't, in this particular type, I don't want to let it set up completely within each one. And you'd think, okay, well, you're going to see all kinds of stuff. You can sometimes get a little bit of a skin showing. 9 out of 10 times you won't. And if you can always remove a little bit of skin if you like. I didn't in this one unless I saw it pouring out of the cup, which I think I did when I was pouring one of the embeds, which is what I'm creating the soap for now. I'm using all those eco glitters and specialty micas like the Blue Moon to create a fairly pigmented, just like the bottom was very pigmented. And it doesn't go through the whole soap, but it's gonna, it's gonna be a little blue. It's not gonna make your bubbles blue. Well, maybe a little bit, but not much. It's fairly, it's usable. Let's put it that way. So I'm just creating embeds here, and super important to this technique is that you do want enough colorant or eco glitter or soap safe eco glitter or specialty micas or just sparkly micas, whatever you're using. You want there to be enough to make enough of a difference for the design elements at the bottom there. You want a little more soap. Well, obviously you'll get more soap in those because they go deeper, but you want that to be able to stand out once it has set up. And one of the ways to do that is to use, it's really not incredibly pigmented with these glitters. It really isn't, but maybe a little bit more than you normally might. And it worked exactly the way I wanted. That's not really the technique that I'm teaching you. That's just kind of a side note on these. You'll see I come back with a different technique on some of them. This is the main one, the two little bitty ones that I'm pouring now. This is the main one I'm focusing on as far as a technique goes. The ones in the larger pink snowflakes, I'm just making a very thin layer in there so that when I pull it out, it's still kind of flexible, but it's a thin image. It's a thin image of that design on the front, and that's all it is because I'm not using it as a whole soap. I imagine you could get the same effect by slicing off the front, but that I'm not so great with. I'm good with a knife with stuff like this and carving, but cutting a straight line I'm not so great at, which is why I prefer using Uncle Andy's to cutting my own soap shapes, which I do end up having to do, cut my own soap bars with my double-handled cheese knife. That's basically what you're looking at doing when you do the type of soap I'm doing in the bottom of a loaf like this. So all I'm doing here, I'm removing anything that is not down in the little embed soaps. These are really tiny, ridiculously delicate soap shapes. Now I have done these with a not thinned out, but a very heavily pigmented white using my titanium dioxide dispersed in glycerin, which makes it a little bit more flexible. And when you use the molds like that, the little tiny ones, these you see me pulling out. That's not really anything that exceptional. I did end up kind of messing up some of the edges of a couple of little pieces of snowflake, that one, because I couldn't see that it was not getting to the front. And that's part of it, is where the camera has to be to catch what you're doing and keep my big head out of the way. So occasionally I sacrifice not seeing for you being able to see. And they're still usable though, and you'll see that in a little while. But look, the image is there, and all I had was clear soap and a little bio glitter, or the specialty mica, the inference, any of the interference micas. I don't know why I always want to call them inference micas, because I read it wrong the first time I looked at that. But back to the little guys. You want to, when I use it with the white, the titanium, and the glycerin, it makes them a little flexible, makes them easier to come out. But you're still going to lose probably half of those. Maybe not, but on a good day, you might get more than half, but you're going to lose those because they don't come out easily. Some of them, I just in using them the first many times, I just was resigned to that, and I made extra and used all the ones that were usable, and some of them look fine as a half snowflake depending on what you're doing, because you can always have it coming kind of in from the side of the image. So that is helpful, but some of them just don't make it at all. And this is a slightly different way to do the same thing. I did not scrape off as much with the stick with this one, because I was afraid it was cooling too fast. I should have had it a little hotter. And if it starts cooling, then you're going to develop enough of a skin to just pull the whole thing out. But the important part is what you see me doing now. You want to clean off any color on the rest of the mold, any on the silicone part of the mold that isn't the design. You want to clean it off. I just sprayed it with alcohol and used a damp paper towel, very lightly damp paper towel, to wipe off any excess. And you don't want to push so hard that you dislodge the snowflakes. And here is the trick. And this is being poured, gosh, do I show it? Sometimes I don't notice where the camera is when I'm taking the temperature. I'm pretty sure it's being poured about 130, which is why you'll also see me spray quickly with alcohol. We're not trying to melt anything. Probably between 127 and 130. You want it to adhere well to the soaps, the little bits of soap that are in those embed molds. So it's got to be hot enough to stick it. We want it above your melting point, but you don't want it so hot that you see the color coming up out of the mold. You don't want to melt it beyond just being able to melt those first few molecules. So it will stick well. So that's the start of, you'll see how it looks. You'll see the results. You probably already get what I'm doing, but I'm doing the same idea in these images here, just on a larger scale, because the detail on these goes so deep. It would be a really thick snowflake, and parts of it would be too opaque for what I want. That's why I did that with the glitter and then the clear. And here we go. This takes a little minute to undo, but it is so cool. I was so excited how well it worked for this because I've never used it with this mold in particular. And then, okay, you might be thinking here, now what? So you have a big sheet of snowflakes. You're going to cut around each one of them, each detail? Yes and no. You'll see when I get to the cutting portion of it, and more importantly, you'll see when I get to embedding them what the result is. But this is why it's so important to make sure that there's nothing else on that silicone mold, because that clear is there. It's going to stay there for the most part, and you can get away with that if you're careful and your clear matches. So that clear that I poured on the back already had fragrance in it. It's the way it's going to be when I pour the layers of clear that I'm layering, kind of a fluid layer, I guess is what I like to call it. I use it with my Galaxy soaps. If you go back to my mini Galaxies, I use it in my koi pond soaps. I've used it in a bunch, and I know I've filmed at least a few of those within my embed soaps where I'm pouring layers, and I continue to pour layers. I pour some, put an embed, pour more, put another embed, and you're kind of doing it as it's setting up, but you don't really let anything set up fully. Yeah, I was really excited about that. I sit here and just look at them for a while because I was so excited with how well they came out. You get if you're careful with it, and obviously I waited longer than what you see here. I waited till they were fully set up. If you're careful with it, you can get every single detail of those intricate little molds. Now you could just take that and embed the whole thing in some particular mold so that you have like a full image of that if you wanted to. But that's not what I do. And that's not what I did the first time I kind of used this technique. There's another part of it I'll save for another video because it's kind of more about getting a look like that in an actual stand-up loaf soap. But I love the way that piece came out. I'm going to be making more of those for other things. I don't know. It just was so pretty. The way the mold is designed, you get a real 3D look if you just put a small amount in that has some type of mica and then clear over that, because it dips down just in such a way that makes it look gradient. It kind of creates its own gradient. You want to make sure that the mica swirls around it before you pour when you pour the first color, so it's at least touching every bit of the design, of the front of the design. And then as it's cooling, most of it's going to pool into the more intricate details of the soap. And that's why it gives you kind of a gradient look on that and then you pour the clear. And it's just kind of a natural gradient. You see I'm chopping these up. Don't yell at me. It hurt a little bit to cut them up, but I knew what I was going to be doing with them. So this gold one here, you see I'm cutting it a little offset. That was on purpose. I don't cut them all in perfectly in half, because the image you're going to see, I'm looking for a flurry of snowflakes kind of floating around in the air. And I also add an element of kind of some snowflakes flurrying around in a little bit of a breeze. You'll see that in a bit too. But that's one of the reasons you don't need to get upset if all of the snowflakes don't come out perfectly, because you see me chopping them there in half. And I do that with a few of the tiny ones too. It's because it's obviously it's a little better with the big ones, because you can't put a bunch of big ones. You can. It's just going to be quite busy, and you will be covering up your lovely sky background that you created with the 3 different colors, or 2. It works really well with 2. I just wanted to try 3 this time. I've done that same sky background with just the Key West blue and the Twilight blue, and it's gorgeous. But I really wanted to add Spacewalk in this time, and I'm glad I did. It turned out really nice. It's kind of like an after dusk kind of look for me. Little bit of light coming from beyond the horizon, but it's not like a sunset or anything. It could even just be like lights from the city, kind of like lightening up the sky in the background, the horizon portion of it. But anyway, so here you see me I'm just cutting them out. I'm not cutting out the full shape. I'm just getting them removed from the little kind of sheet of them, I guess is what you'd call it, a little sheet of snowflakes. I'm getting out the ones I want for right now. The others, I promise, will be used. I already have designs on doing more, and that's one of the nice things about doing this. It's a little tedious, scraping it, cleaning it, making sure there's no mica on the silicone, etc. But typically, you're going to get more than one. I guess it depends on how many snowflakes you want. But it usually, like for this, I'm not using that many. I don't even think I used half of what I made. Pretty sure I could probably do at least 2 more loaf soaps with what I have. And maybe more if I'm not using all just snowflakes. Don't forget the snowflakes can go in a picture of a lot of other things. I just wanted to feature those snowflakes this time. Because I was in the mood for it. And I have so many pretty little snowflake designs. I kind of wanted to highlight that. So here we go. This is what you see how the cut ones look. They're partially in the picture and partially out of the frame of the picture. And that's why that works. And that's why you never want to throw away a snowflake embed because it isn't perfect If you can cut part of it and use part of it, it creates a great look. Like I said, if I used all big ones, it would, and nothing off to the side, it would be kind of awkward. In as far as the design elements go, you want it to be able to go off the side of the picture in a soap like this. At least I do. That's the way I design things. I want it to look like I took a snapshot, and you wouldn't see. Well, I guess I don't know. Maybe a cropped snapshot. You wouldn't see everything. Unless you're using a panoramic view. This is not a panoramic view. So what I'm doing here, I'm just putting them in on the next layer of clear. By the way, that first layer of clear I poured, look at this one. When I spray that, you cannot see the clear soap because you're putting it in clear soap. And as long as they match, and as long as there's, not a lot of bubbles or not a lot of strange colorants that don't match what you have, even if it's not the same soap I use, it just needs to match. The clearer the better, of course. It's going to hide those. It's going to hide those little raw edges. Even I cut them with a knife. I wasn't careful. I didn't bevel it. I didn't do anything special. It hides it. Clear on clear most of the time can be really forgiving. And like you see me pouring here, that other layer isn't set. I'm pouring on top of another skin of clear soap. You can kind of see it move there out of the way. And as long as you're not creating additional bubbles in that or pulling it and really kind of creating a big mess, it's going to be a very clear look, or can be. I love that effect of putting those down in that clear, and then those sides, the edges just disappear and it becomes just a snowflake. And I absolutely love that look. So that's my fluid pour, or my fluid layering, and also using those embeds with, I'll say, a clear assist to get them out. And I'll show you the other use for that down the road. Here is my little image of a breeze or of the wind taking those flurries in kind of a breeze pattern. All I did is add environmental glitter, bio glitter, to a small amount of clear and just tiniest little bit of drizzle in there. I didn't pour it really hot. The first, I started to say this and I interrupted myself because of what you were seeing on the screen. The first layer of clear that I poured before I laid down the first big snowflakes, that was hot. It was really hot when I poured it, like 145 for my type of soap. It's pretty hot because I wanted it to stick. And you hopefully saw me kind of swirl it around a little bit. All you have to do is make sure the soap makes contact with that, and you do it quickly so it's not melting anything, and you pour very little. If you pour very little like that, you're not going to melt your sky. I sprayed it immediately after. I even sprayed it before, I'm pretty sure. Spraying alcohol, rubbing alcohol, helps your soap to move. So if you're trying to get it to move to all edges of the image or of your mold, spraying helps. It may not, do everything for you. You have to have enough soap in there too, and it has to be warm enough to move. But it helps it to thin that layer out and smooth it across, because a thin layer is not going to melt your stuff. It's not going to melt your embeds. It's not going to melt anything. If I was able to place those first embeds right away, because it cooled so quickly. You saw me take that thermometer, and by the time I put the embeds in, it said 118 or something like that. It was quite low. And that was, there was no time in between there. I didn't wait around. What you saw was what you saw. I didn't edit anything out. It's a little faster. I do these a little bit sped up from what I do because I'm a slow worker. I'm a slow mover. If I try to hurry, I'll just mess things up. So I don't. I do things at my pace. The only time I hurry is if I know that I have to, because something's going to set up on me. Then you'll see me move. Now, on occasion with these, you might see the clear edges. It happens. But there are ways around it. One thing you want to make sure is that you don't, that's one of the reasons I'll spray before I put it down. It wouldn't hurt if you're concerned about it to spray the back of each embed. Will help avoid bubbles, but typically you're not going to get bubbles unless you're setting it down on a skin where the skin has already started to build up. So be aware of that. I did that with one snowflake this time, and I fixed it pretty easily. All I did is go back. I don't know if I show me doing it. I took one of the little sticks I have that had a little tiny bit of BioGlitter on it, like just left from what I had putting into the cup that I used, and I just lightly tapped it over that area of the snowflake, and it instantly masked it all. Just a little bit of tiniest bit of glitter, and you can't see the edge. You might be able to see it in the close-ups, but as looking at the soap, unless you're going like under a microscope or something or really enlarging it, you're not going to see it. And then you'd probably have to even know what you were looking for. So I was so thrilled. I looked at this for I don't know how long before I was able to cut it because I was so excited with how it turned out. A lot of times I like my soaps. I like the designs I come up with. You hear me sometimes criticize myself because I'm either trying to get better at something or the design didn't turn out the way I wanted. Doesn't mean I don't like the soap. I just get disappointed sometimes when you're, looking for a certain design type and it doesn't work out the way you want. It can be a little frustrating. I always get over it. But with this one, this is what I pictured. This is exactly what I wanted it to be. Now, my cuts weren't exactly what I wanted them to be, but I honestly think with a soap that comes out this pretty, I don't think it matters that much. It's confirmation to anyone purchasing this or receiving it as a gift that that it's handmade. It's not pumped out by a machine. It's not, there's no paper design under it. This is completely handmade. And I really was thrilled with them. But yeah, my cuts. I think I show you at one point how crooked one of them was because I was like, oh, great. But yeah, it's not going to bother anybody. If it doesn't bother me, it's likely not to bother anybody else because I'm bothered by a lot of things because I'm a perfectionist with my own work. Usually not with other people's, but with my own stuff, I'm really hard on myself. There I show you. It's just kind of leaning to one side on both edges. So I think one bar came out perfectly straight. The rest are like, eh. But you really don't see it unless you're looking for it, unless you're looking at the sides and looking for how perfectly straight. Because from the front and the top, I guess it really is just the front. From the front of the soap, it looks just fine. So, and then I always bevel soaps like this. I don't bevel every soap, but to me, a soap like this, it really brings out the design. It looks like glass. It looks like some kind of glass artwork or something like that. It just enhances that look, or crystal. Sometimes it does. I kind of wrecked a little bit on the back of that one. Didn't bevel it quite so well. Something to remember. I do want to get. I've seen some really cool little beveling tools that I may look into getting, but this is what I have for now. And I will say, obviously it's sped up here, but I take my time placing, and as long as I kind of pull fast, and like I said, that's hard for me, but I take a little more time placing it, and then pull quickly. The pulling quickly really does help, and not pushing. You don't want to push into it, because that's what I did on the back of that one, and it just made it a little. Oh, Mr. Soap and Such gives it a thumbs up and says hi, everybody. He was real excited about this design too. We both were pretty thrilled. Came out very nice. And again, I'm super excited when something comes out the way I wanted it. Yeah, that's the way it's intended to go, so that the bottom is a little lighter. You could do it whatever way you want. Honestly, you could turn it whatever direction you want, because it's still going to look like a pretty sky. I think I took a couple pictures of them upside down just to see what they looked like. I don't know. I might have put one in here. I'm not sure. So if you got anything out of this, if you liked these, if you liked the design, if you liked the techniques that I've shown you for this. I think they're really exciting and open people up to a lot of possibilities with embeds. Please give me a like, give the video a like, subscribe if you aren't. I'm so grateful for you joining me and giving me the really nice positive feedback I've had on these tutorials. I'm really grateful for you. I'm up to 1,500 subscribers, and I'm just thrilled. If you are so inclined, I'm now also available for super thanks, which is paying, and I don't even know how much what they cost, but there's little animated things you can put in comments, and you can highlight the comments, etc., and I receive a portion of that. I'm not going to keep touting that to you, but I will be showing eventually a YouTube video on how to find all these things and how to find the description box so you can link directly to the products. I appreciate you so much, and hopefully you've learned something or been entertained at least. And I hope to see you next time. I'll be putting out another Christmas tutorial soon. Thanks so much. Bye. Hey everyone. Welcome to Mystery Soaps and Such. Welcome back if you are an old fan, and welcome to all you newbies as well. I hope you are doing well, and I hope you enjoy this video. We're going to make a Winter Wonderland soap. It's been a little bit of time for me, so I'm getting my sea legs back, if you want to call it. And Mr. Soaps and Such and I are really excited about moving forward and doing more like weekly like we used to. So hopefully you'll see a lot more of us, or a lot more from us, or something like that. Starting off with Premium Crystal Clear from Wholesale Supplies Plus, Crafter's Choice. That is my soap of preference. That's my favorite soap, especially for art soaps. The clarity is everything to me when it comes to making art soaps. If you're trying to show a picture, you don't want to bury that picture in a soap that is kind of see-through-ish. You want it to really be clear. So there are some things you can do to help that along, but the best thing to do is start off with a soap that's really, really clear, and that is the Premium Crystal Clear. They also sell Extra Clear. That isn't more clear than Premium Crystal Clear, I promise you. I used to get that mixed up, and I know there are a few others of you have mentioned that before. You know, which one is the clearest? It's the Premium Crystal. That's the one you want if you want super clear. Definitely worth it, in my opinion. I have tested it. There is a slight difference. It's not drastic, but it's enough that if you're wanting to do art soaps, get the Premium Crystal Clear. Okay. And I'm not affiliated with Wholesale Supplies Plus, so they're not paying me to say this. It's just my favorite. You'll notice that I'm talking about clear, but I'm pouring white. Well, that is because it's very easy to make a white soap from the clear. If you could certainly use goat's milk or something else here if you'd rather. But I just added some titanium dioxide that I dispersed in glycerin. Now, this is a little bit more of a complicated soap. I certainly wouldn't consider it a beginner soap or a beginner project. So I'm going to treat it as such in my instructions. I'm not going to give every little detail of things I think you should probably already know at the stage of being able to do a soap like this. Obviously, I'm always willing to answer questions. So if you have any questions in the comments, please, let me know. I'll answer them. I also am going to ask for questions from you. I'll get back to that in a minute because I want to tell you what I was doing now. That I only poured about 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch of soap there, the white, and then the clear about less than that, obviously. But that clear had wasn't Sparkle Plenty. It was Snowflake Sparkle or something like that. It was a Nurture soap one. Usually I go Mad Micah's. But I have this one, and I wanted to finish using it. So that's what I put in that clear, and I swirled it in that little thin layer of soap. Swirling is quite easy when you're doing small layers. So give it a try. That's a good way to get a feel for it. It's much easier than doing it in thick layers. The timing and temperature get far more important the thicker the layer is. So that little piece, that white piece, will be pulled out later to become another embed. And please ignore the weird lump in my in my mold there at the very top. You see where the hot pink is peeking through? I don't know what caused it. I think I may have had a mold or a bit of something underneath there that I didn't realize was there while it was in storage. So I'm going to hopefully I only discovered it when I went to pour that in there and realized there was a big lump in my mold. So I'm going to try to fix that, and I'll let you know if anything I try works. But in the meantime, I am pouring now Enchanted Forest by Mad Micas, which is my usual mica company, colorant company of choice. I am affiliated with them, but that's not because I don't shout them out and use their products because I'm affiliated with them. I am affiliated with them because I love their products. They're just really high quality, very ethical company. Your ethically sourced micas and cruelty free, all the good stuff from them. Several biodegradable products as well. They're very conscientious, and they're very nice to work with. They're very cool people over there down there now. I used to be much closer to them when I lived in Florida, but now I'm in Iowa, and part of the reason you'll see me struggling a little bit here is because I'm in Iowa and it's a lot colder than I'm used to. So my temperatures and timing, etc., has changed quite a bit, and I haven't had enough practice with that yet. And I'm trying to make some alterations in what I do. The second colorant I poured there was Crazy Eyes Green, also from Mad Micas. Now, I like the Crazy Eyes better. It's kind of why I stopped pouring the Enchanted Forest. I love the Enchanted Forest. It's a beautiful color. I don't know how much you can tell on your screen, but the Enchanted Forest is a little bit of a softer color. Very frosty looking. I just love it. But I wanted a little bit more of a bold color palette for this because the bulk of this soap is going to be white and clear with little splashes of color here and there. So I wanted those splashes of color to be fairly vibrant. So I chose some vibrant colors instead. I didn't realize how soft the Enchanted Forest was till I poured it in that little mold. I do end up using what I poured, most of it, with that. And the little bit that's left over, I obviously will use that in some type of remake or scrap soap or something. I always use my scraps. You saw the overpour there with the white. What a mess I made. If you don't know me, if you're new to my channel, I'm a mess. I make messes. Art is messy, and so am I. I'm kind of an organized messy, but I'm messy. That's hard to. When I'm done with this, you'll see me kind of pull up the white that poured out over the mold. I was in a big rush when I was doing it. Again, afraid of temperature, dropping the temperature of the soap too low. So that it wouldn't fill in those teeny tiny molds. When you're using tiny molds, you've got to pour hot or you're going to have trouble. You also want to spritz it first so you don't get any air bubbles. These molds I'm pouring in now are intricate and delicate, but not nearly as much as the snowflakes, as you'll see in a few minutes. Normally I would have, if I had had a little more time, I would have scraped this white part here off while it was still quite hot. You'd have to have the scraper in your hands and ready to go pour and scrape. Because if you let it sit and it gets a skin, if you let it sit just for a second and it gets a skin on it, you're going to pull most of the soap out of the little itty bitty cavities there, and you won't end up with a full embed. And in ones this delicate, that makes it really tricky to work with. So I went the hard route, and I'm scraping it off by hand. It was a pain in the neck. Even I do that sometimes, but I get a thinner layer that I'm scraping off. If you scrape it with a little scraping tool, only scrape once. And if you leave some there, it's okay. You can do this and it doesn't take that long. But if you don't scrape any off, then you're scraping for quite a while. You see me wiping that off, and that can be reused in a variety of different ways. That it is a lot of titanium dioxide and glycerin, because that's how I disperse my titanium dioxide. And it can be incorporated into another soap if you save it and preserve it. It's kind of almost like a soft paste right now, so you don't just want to, I don't know. So you want to put it somewhere. Put it in a little baggie is what I like to do. Anyway, so you see me painstakingly doing that for way too long. I sped it up, but I probably just should have cut it out. But hindsight is 2020, and I'm just going to have to talk over it. You will see in a moment when I get the one scraped and then I pick up the other and start scraping. I also clean it off. You want it extremely clean for the technique I'm using, and this is only one technique to get these little teeny tiny embeds out of this mold. This is kind of one of my favorite tricks. I've shown it before in my Flurries soap, and you might, if you haven't seen that one, you might want to give it a watch, because it will show you a little bit more detail this technique that I'm doing. But once I get it all scraped from both of those molds and wipe it, I'm going to wipe it by spritzing it with rubbing alcohol. If you see me spritzing anything with a little spray bottle, it's going to be rubbing alcohol. For this, for when I'm creating a soap, I'm usually using 91%. I use 70% for sanitizing, because that's what you do. It sounds kind of backward, but 70% has enough water in it that it is going to keep the alcohol on the surface long enough to kill anything that's on there. So it's better. If you do 91%, it disperses too quickly to kill the microbes and whatever else might be hanging around. I mean, there shouldn't be much of anything because I clean them first, but you never want to, you don't want to chance it. But the 91% is quite effective for popping bubbles, for getting off extra soap off of the surface like this. I've just used, like I showed you, right there in a little spray bottle, 91% rubbing alcohol, and I'm wiping that with a paper towel. You can use whatever you like, a lint-free cloth, something like that. I'm using a paper towel. And there's the second one. You'll see it really cleans that surface. It just makes sure there's no white residue on the surrounding bits. You want the pink to look pretty clear, because you're about to pour, I think, I'm about to pour some clear soap on top of that. That's what I'm getting ready to do. And yes, I do fragrance the whole soap. Sometimes I will fragrance parts of it lighter than others. But I think for this, I just did basically 1% across the board. My fragrance that I'm using is called North Pole, and that is a wholesale supplies plus fragrance. Let me backtrack just for a second, because I want to talk about the other colorants I've used. I got so sidetracked from the snowflakes there that I didn't tell you the other colors I was using. After Crazy Eyes, which is that really brilliant green, I went to a beautiful, beautiful aqua, which is Blue Tide, also by Mad Micas. And then the blue after that was Key West Blue, also from Mad Micas. And if I didn't already tell you, there's an affiliate link in my description box. And if you purchase through that link from Mad Micas, I will receive a small commission. And I literally don't remember if I've said that, because I had to start this over again. So I know I've said it at one point. I just don't remember if I said it in this video yet. But there it is. Um, I think I did now that I'm thinking about it. Oh, well, you got to hear it twice. So, um, all the embeds have now, I believe, been poured. I come back later, I think, and pour an extra Christmas tree. As you see that little kind of gray mold there that has the Christmas tree in it, there, the one I picked up right now. Wow, what do you know? That is the only actual Christmas tree mold that I'm using. Um, but there's a ton of Christmas trees in this soap. How can that be, Miss Terry? How can you? Well, you can make Christmas trees out of leaves. Um, if you use them, it's just all about the perspective and how you use them, how you decorate them, how you cut them, a variety of things. It's an image. It's what's the word? It's an indication of a Christmas tree. If um, if you color them fall colors, they're going to look like leaves. If you color them, I know blue is kind of weird, I know, but this is kind of a fantasy soap, fantasy colored soap. That's why I was going for those bold colors. I wanted it to look like a fantasy walk in the snow, just a little, I don't know, a little, not quite Dr. Seuss. They do have a couple of trees. That's what made me think of that look like Dr. Seuss trees. But I wanted it to be a little whimsical. So here I'm pulling out that the big but thin embed that I created there. And in a moment, you will see what I'm going to do with that. But also, just to kind of backtrack about the trees, you'll see as I go how I make them look a little bit more like trees and less like leaves. Some of it is just, like I said, the colorants and the context in which you're using them. If I had a branch next to it, it might look more like a leaf than a tree. So you'll see me cutting some wave shapes out of this soap, out of this little thin layer. Please find yourself a a ruler, a straight edge, something like that for the straight lines instead of what I'm about to do. It worked for me, but I don't recommend it. Do as I say and not as I do. I'm using the edge of the soap for a straight edge. I don't know why. It was there. It was quick, and so I got it and I used it, and it actually worked just fine. But I did just score that line. I didn't cut all the way through, so I go back and carefully kind of score a little deeper each time until it goes through. I tried to be, and you might want to as well, a little careful on my surface there. I'm usually my surface for making soaps is going to be a silicone mat. Sometimes that's because I'm pouring soap directly onto the silicone mat and using that. In this case, I don't believe I do that anywhere intentionally other than my spills of soap, which I also do. But if you're creating something like this, just be careful that if your knife goes through the soap and presses real hard on that silicone mat, you're going to cut it up. So either put a cutting board underneath, which is what I usually do, and did not for this one, or just score lightly, kind of like I'm doing here, and then go back and you take it a little deeper and just be gentle with how that knife touches the mat. You'll notice that I'm doing two different sizes of waves. You'll also notice I'm not using any kind of a template. I'm just freehanding things. You could certainly cut yourself. Not cut yourself. You could certainly draw, and cut out, or even download from somewhere a little template with a wavy line if you want. I don't have any of those for offer right now, but it's just a wavy line. So it's not that hard. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is art. These are art soaps, and in my opinion, if you have perfect art, you don't have art. It should be, I don't know, spontaneous. I look, I'm a perfectionist too, so this is coming from a perfectionist. It doesn't have to be perfect. That should say something to you. The lines actually look better if it's not perfect, in my opinion. That's the way I see it. So I just kind of did some squiggles on the larger ones I'm making because I said I'm making 2 sizes. I wanted the waves to be a little less wavy, a little less deep. So they're a little shallower, and then the smaller ones are a little bit more curvy. And you'll see the look that gives you when you see me put it together, and I'll explain more when we get to that. Now, and this is really not the order I would normally do this in for a video. Normally, I would have had all of these embeds made ahead of time and would have made a video about making these embeds. And then I would have had a separate video of putting it all together. That's a lot easier in so many ways. But I didn't. So sorry. um, I'm kind of, in doing it all at once, I'm having to save myself some time, which is why I did that. I poured that white and then went back to the embeds. And then I do something else and then I go back to the embeds. So just trying to, not stand around waiting for soap to dry. So this little layer here, this now is actually going to be the back layer of the soap. I'm bringing the soap, making the soap from the back forward, as I like to do in my landscape soaps. You can certainly do them upside down, but in this soap, I don't think it would work as well. You'd lose sight of some things and not really be able to see what you're doing. It works in many cases, but it was not my choice for this. Here I'm employing my marbling technique, which is basically you pour a little bit, a thin layer, between 1/8 and 1/4 inch, a little bit more than that white layer I did, which was more going to be cut up. This one is not going to be cut up until I cut the bars of soap. So I like to give myself between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch to work. It's not so much that soap has the colored soap that I strung in there. Slung, that's the word. I sling soap. Sometimes I forget what I do. I sling soap for a living. But slinging those colors in there like that, it's just a tiny amount of color or a tiny amount of soap with quite a bit of mica. As you'll see, I make those a little bit strong, but it works because it is just a small amount of soap in there. That's not the whole soap getting mica everywhere. And the colorants I used in that were the Crazy Eyes, same Crazy Eyes green. I just remelted a little bit of that. And the blue, I believe, was the Key West blue again. I kind of wanted to make the colors sort of match. What I'm doing with that little layered, even though I'm back to kind of getting some embeds out and trimming them, I'm going to still talk about the marbling technique because what I was going for there is kind of a Northern Lights look. Even though it's not a soap in the nighttime, kind of a Northern Lights-ish, or what do they call them? The rainbow clouds. Something. I wanted some color and, like I said, whimsical kind of look in the background. So the sky has some swirls of color in it. And I wanted the sky to mostly be clear with that. Instead of my usual, I would have done a blue background and have that be the sky and maybe swirl 2 colors of blue or swirl in some white clouds or something. But this was the route I took this time. And I think it came out really neat. It's kind of hard to show in the end. You'll see a little bit more about that. But that's the choice I made. I did the blue and the green in a separate layer. And I come back later in the next layer of clear and I do pour a little bit of a pinkish red. Voodoo red or voodoo pink. I don't know which they call it, but it's kind of both. From Mad Micas. That's one of my favorites. I use Flirt a lot, which is also one of their colorants. It's a little bit more toward the pink or purplish side, or magenta, something like that. Anyway, I wanted I wanted this one to have a little bit more red in it, so that's what I chose this time. I was struggling a little bit to get some of those leaves out because it is a really flat mold, those little ones that were the Enchanted Forest. And I got most of them out. I kind of gave up on a couple because I felt like I was wasting time. So I pulled out most of them, and some I just left in a pile in the corner there. I would have had to cut around them, and I didn't feel like doing it. And I felt like I had enough of the little leaves for my trees. And so I just left them. This was a very long, tedious video to make. We were so tired by the time we were done with this, Mr. Soaps and such and I. We were just like, please just stop, get it done. And I love making soaps like this, but it was just one of those that just kept dragging on and on. As you will see, well, you saw me hold it over the pink there. I just wanted you to be able to see the detail a little bit better on those snowflakes. Because with a lighter background, it's hard to see that. So I held it over the darker background. And notice here as I'm unmolding that's with the clear on the top. So that's what they're sticking to, almost like a little set of stickers. See that? Isn't that cool? I was bending the mold back, not the soap. That is a really helpful way when you're working with delicate embeds to not break them or have them peel off of the clear, or just destroy them in some other way to keep it all intact. Bend the mold, not the soap, when you're dealing with little bitty thin things like this and delicate embeds of any kind, really. So here like I said, this is just one way to incorporate little tiny delicate embeds into your soap. I have a couple others I'll be doing. Probably not with the snowflakes again, because it's snowflake season isn't going to be here that much longer, although we are supposed to get some serious snow tomorrow and maybe Saturday here in Iowa where I am. So if you don't see me for a few days, that's why. I'm just cutting around the little shapes. And yeah, I'm kind of leaving the majority of that clear there. If you're careful when you're embedding them, and you'll see I'm not super careful and it still works, you don't really see that clear. Because it's the same exact clear that you're using in the rest of the soap. That's one of the reasons I also fragrance it at the same time I'm doing the others, and at the same percentage. I do it at 1% across the board for this one. And it just kind of masks it when you put it in there, unless you put it in over top of a thin layer already forming, and then you're going to see, you may see the edges or bubbles. And you'll see I got some bubbles in this. I got quite a bit of bubbles, more than I usually like to do. But again, being in a colder temperature makes that skin happen a lot faster. But it kind of went with the look of the snow and the fun colorful clouds. So I didn't worry too much about it, because I still thought it looked cool. I used to stress so much over things like that. And who has time? Who has energy to stress over little bubbles in your soap? I don't anymore. So I just cut around each one. If there was a big piece sticking off the corner, I might have cut that off here and there. But at some point, I will show you another technique to do all that. And right now, it's kind of cut off, and I'm really sorry about that. Like I said, I didn't have much room on that table because I didn't do them separately. I should have. But I'm just taking that little spatula thingy there, and I'm just dipping it in the white soap and drizzling a little bit, or guiding a little bit onto the tip of each leaf. I do them each in a different way. Sometimes I did diagonal little stripes. Sometimes I just kind of rubbed a little white color on there, and I just mostly focused on the top half or less. You could dip them. You could dip the tops in. I didn't want, to me, that would look a little bit too uniform, and I didn't want that to be uniform. So I kind of did the tedious way and made some little stripes and just little bits. But again, doesn't have to be perfect, because some of mine are really messy and sloppy, and it all looks okay. Some of it just looks globby. But when you see the overall picture of it, and in each individual soap too, it all looks okay. In fact, more than okay. It looks really good. So, don't stress yourself over things like that. Just put a little snow on there. It's just white soap. It's just soap with clear soap with titanium dioxide. I pre-mix mine usually about half and half with the glycerin, the titanium dioxide. Sometimes I add more titanium dioxide if it seems a little too thin. And then I just add a little bit into my soap until I like the opacity, till I like the how white it is, So I did this one fairly white because I didn't want the snow to be see-through. So I put in quite a bit of titanium dioxide. I use the water-based type. That's what makes it easy to disperse in glycerin. Some people disperse it in other things. You're welcome to try whatever you like. I use glycerin for that, and I also use glycerin for activated charcoal, which is not in this soap at all. But I just thought I should mention it. I do, real quick mention here, I've got a yellow spatula in that clear soap. Notice how yellow it makes the soap look in the bucket. That is not the soap. That is definite, and it's not the fragrance oil. It is definitely the spatula casting a reflection in that soap and coloring it a little bit. This fragrance oil does discolor a tiny bit in Mountain Pour, just a little bit. It didn't at first. You'll see the pictures and everything at the end here looks beautiful, but by a couple months later, it was a little bit less. It wasn't less clear. It's hard to say. It was still clear. It wasn't fuzzy. It wasn't foggy. It just wasn't perfectly clear. It was a little. I won't say it was yellowish because I think it was a little bit more pink in the tint. It still looked cool anyway. That happens sometimes. Fragrance oil doesn't just yellow or brown, and it's not only vanilla. This has no vanillin in it at all, or vanillin, whatever way you pronounce it. I've heard a lot of different things. But it can discolor pink. It can discolor green. I've seen both of those too, although yellow is more common. So here go those little. Now you see, maybe you can see what I'm doing with those little strips I made earlier. I'm kind of going to call this my. I'm thinking of how to term it, but I get the image of children's theater. Now, I've seen children's theater. I've done children's theater and directed it, where there's full professional, Broadway looking set pieces. It just depends on your resources and what you have. But I've also seen children's productions where they've got cardboard cutout pieces, little cardboard cutout bushes and houses and whatever pieces you're making, because they may not have that much of a budget. And also, so the children, if they're needing to help with set changes, can do that and not have to worry about picking up some heavy wooden flat, or rolling something big, or anyway, that is a common thing in children's theater, and that's what putting this together reminds me of. I think you'll get a clearer image of that when you see the next layer being added after I get the trees in. But as you see, quick note, try to make sure the snow goes up, points upward, and not into the ground. I only had one that did it, and I tried to fix it, and it was too late. Maybe you saw me struggling with that. It's already in there. It's a little blue one. And I left it because unless you're looking for it, you're probably not going to notice it. But typically the snow falls on top of the trees and not underneath it, or from the bottom up. So that's that. Something to think about. It's a little harder to think about when you keep switching sides like I do. I keep flipping it from one side to another. That's because, again, my table isn't quite level, and I want my soap to be fairly level. So if you just switch back and forth, the layers kind of even out, and it ends up to be a mostly level soap. So that's why you see me doing that. Right now, I think I'm making more. Oh, yeah. I'm going to do another clear layer. And with this clear layer, I add a little bit more colorant. Mostly because I wanted that first layer of snow drifts, if you can kind of see the picture coming together, to have a little bit of color on them. Kind of like it's reflecting the sky a little, because snow does reflect things, color and light. And so I thought, why not put a little bit there? I didn't continue adding color after that because I didn't want it to get muddy and I didn't want it to cover up the picture too much and make it um, not really busy. Wasn't the look. It is kind of a busy soap, but it was more about clarity, just wanting to keep the front layers a little bit clearer. So I didn't go for adding little bits of mica like I'm doing here. These are just micas, the same micas I used in the first 2 layers, which are Crazy Eyes Green, Voodoo Red or Pink, and the Key West Blue. And I just a tiny bit. I really just used a little. And then you see me having to play with it because it didn't go where I wanted to. The marbling technique, where I go and pour a little bit of color and then I use clear soap to move it. And sometimes a stick. You'll see me, dragging it around with a stick too. You can't control it perfectly. And I do love soaps like that where you can't perfectly control everything because it's kind of the fun of it. Of art, you get what you get sometimes. There are different techniques and ways you can learn to control it a little bit better than when you're starting, but you can't force the soap to go somewhere through just pouring more soap or the stick. It's not going to do what you want it to. But it's fun. I think that makes it a little bit fun. Anyway, that's why I was trying to play with it, is to get more of the color back up on the white and less in the sky because it already has some in the sky. Either way, you see a couple of these when you watch me lay down a little embed there. You might see it, the skin, where the skin is developing, it like a little web almost. So if you set it down and it's not right where you want it, try not to mess with it. If you twist it, and I know you'll see me do that here a couple of times, if you move it or you twist it, you're going to create bubbles and lines and weird things. Not the end of the world because, like I said, this still ends up being super cute, even though that the layer of setups, the skin that develops on the top was happening much faster than I'm used to, and that made me struggle a little. It still, like I said, ended up being pretty darn cute. And in the close-ups in the end, you'll definitely see where it happens, and I think you'll still like them. I do. And I'm really picky. Sometimes don't like my soaps until I have a chance to sit with them for a while. Why am I cutting snowflakes in half, you might be wondering. If you haven't seen my arachnophobia and Gone Batty videos, go check those out too. I talk a little bit more about this in creating a design like this that already is going to be cut up. It's more of a full picture if you see half of something. And that sounds weird because it's like not a full picture, but it is. If you take a picture with a camera, unless you do those great big, I don't know, those panoramic kind of pictures, and even if you do, there's an end to it. There's going to be an end, and you're not going to be able to capture everything unless you're spinning around in a video or something. But as a photo, you're capturing part of something, and that's what this shows. You might catch half of a snowflake or half of a tree in your picture because there's a finite area that you're photographing. And so that's kind of why I do this. I like the way it works as a design element. It makes it feel more complete than just sticking a bunch of embeds in the center or, cramming a bunch in and they're all perfectly whole. It just, I don't know. For me, it makes it a better design. Obviously, you can do your design however you like. You could perfectly place one tree in the center of each bar and one snowflake, and it would probably still be a really cool soap. But I kind of have to go for many trees and many snowflakes and half trees because that's just me. But going in a slab mold like this, it's kind of fun because you can do whatever you want. The placement, I'll say, is I'm just layering. I'm just adding more trees and more snowflakes and more hot soap and layering these things. So as I'm doing that, let me just tell you the placement of those three and white embeds, the big strips of white that are kind of look like hills or snowdrifts. Um, those are placed. Obviously, the first one was up against the bottom edge as best I could, and then I went with the little markings. My mold happened to have markings for places to cut. I don't know if you can see them in this video. I think you can. If your mold doesn't, though, get out a Sharpie. Get out a Sharpie and measure, where you want those bars to be cut, and just put it on the very edge so you can see how you're placing things. It makes it a million times easier than guessing, I promise you. But this one, I was really thrilled that it had the markings on it. Because it's helpful. But, if you do the Sharpie, you might have to redo it every so often, because when you spritz with alcohol, it's going to remove it if you're not careful, or, you might get like 3 or 4 uses before they're gone, maybe even 5 or 6. I don't know. Depends on how much you spray with alcohol. I tend to go light on it. Okay, so now you see it coming together with my opinion of like what looks like a children's theater set. There's the front half of that embed, and it creates a really 3D image, and I think it's what makes the picture. I know the snowflakes are the coolest, and the trees are colorful, but I think the image comes out best because of the 2 layers of snowdrifts. I keep wanting to say sand dunes because, again, I'm from Florida, but there's no palm trees here, so those aren't sand dunes. Now, you could. There's an idea. There's a challenge for you. Who's going to create sand dunes on a beach with a bunch of palm trees? And maybe some seagrass or sea oats, that kind of stuff. Anyway, there's an idea for you, and maybe for me. But this one is snowdrifts. And I like the way the color in the back gives a little bit, to me, that gives a little bit more dimension. It gives it more depth away from the front ones. It gives it the illusion of being farther away. And as does the variety of sizes of trees. If you notice, I had some that were teeny, teeny, tiny, and I put them way at the back. Because the further back something is, in your long-term field of vision, if you're looking out over a real snowscape, they're going to be small because you're not up close to them. So anyway, that's another way to kind of create visual interest and depth in a landscape soap, is by size of things. And here I'm just making little marks with my knife where the marks in the soap mold were. So that gives me, once I remove it from the mold, I still have where those marks were and can cut it. I didn't bother on the sides where the little drifts were, because that's my line. And you'll see I do have to, because I'm not perfect, and I didn't make them perfect, and I didn't use a straight edge to cut the bottom edge, so it wasn't perfect. I did end up using my double-handled cheese knife there, which is what I cut my slab molds with, to just trim it a little bit, and it didn't go to waste. Those are definitely set aside for embeds for future use. I'm not sure if I'm going to chop them up tiny or remelt them. I don't know what I'm going to do. Just a quick note, if you are liking to remelt your soaps, your scraps and stuff like that, do it sooner than later. It's harder to do when it gets a little older and dries out. And it will dry up faster. It will set up faster. It's just not as good of a use of your leftovers. But using them right away, they should be fine. Anyway, here comes my bad cutting job. I'm not great at cutting. I get the job done, but I'm not great at it. You'll see in one of these here where I line that knife up, I didn't even notice. This is how tired I was. Didn't even notice that they were like spread apart and not, I think it's the last cut that I make, not really lined up at all. But they were all cute though. And none of them really individually, when you're looking at them, look really crooked or anything. They're just, I just looked at that and watched the video back and I was like, you could do better than that, Terry. But here it comes. It's this one. Like I line it up and then I knock it off placement a little bit or something happens. See, they're not lined up, but it works. And they're all rectangular shaped soaps, basically. I don't show you, I think. I don't think I show in this one. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't show me beveling. It's a long video. There's a lot going on. I'm just getting back into the game after a long break. And I was just hoping I could talk my way through this. So I didn't want to drag it on even further. I just used a vegetable peeler. Obviously not one I used for vegetables first. And I just trimmed the front sides. I didn't do the whole thing. I've done both, and I think for this one it was just fine to kind of frame it a little bit. You'll see me kind of moving these all around. I'm struggling at this point to kind of see or let the camera see those snowflakes. The light kind of picks it up and kind of doesn't. And at the same time, I also wanted you to be able to see the color. Now, this one has a lot more color in the background than the other, so that really kind of pops out. But not sometimes it's a little bit more subtle in some of them, and it's still really pretty in person, but boy, is it hard to see on camera. So you'll see in a minute, at the very end of me trying to show these to you, I finally realized, oh, you can see the snowflakes if I put my hand behind it because it's clear and you can see. So I should have probably had both a dark and a light background there, but I didn't. So you kind of see me struggling to catch the light just right. In my light box pictures, you will see that I did both. I did some with my hand behind and some without. And I did it in the way I lined it up. I did the same soap so you can see, oh, there's the snowflake. And there's the same soap without my hand behind it. And it just kind of shows you the clarity and the placement of the snowflakes and how delicate they are, because boy, are they delicate. And you really, you can also tell in here, you don't see the little clear part where I cut around them. You don't really see it that much. You see it on occasion, like I said, where I messed up and put it down on a layer where it had already started developing a skin. That's where it shows up, but mostly not. I was very happy with the overall look. And there, I'm like, oh, look, I see my fingers. I was trying to pull them down at first. I'm like, wait a minute. That shows the snowflakes. So I'll put them back up in a second, I think, to show. Yeah, I'm like, wait. So you can kind of see the snowflakes a little bit better when I do that. As the Lightbox pictures come up, I just want to thank you so much for being with me here today. I have a membership now, just the first level. Click the join button if you want to hang around for some fun stuff. There'll be a lot more goodies down the road with that. And please like and subscribe. And thanks so much. I really appreciate having you here. I think there'll be a lot more soaps in your future if you stick around. And maybe you heard my cat just now. He said goodbye too. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye. Hey everyone. I'm going to make 3 soaps today and not give instructions, because what I want to talk about today is making a set of soaps and what inspired me to do this. Making 3 soaps at once can be a little difficult, but it does help to be able to melt it all pretty fast. And so I used my fast melt, and there'll be more on that in my full tutorial that's coming. And just to talk about what might be coming in the future from 2 Auto Tools, which is where I got my fast melt. I am making these soaps under the theme of love and gifts. This was what inspired me. And one of the first things I think of when I think of Christmas time and love and gifts, I think of Scrooge. I think of A Christmas Carol. And the story, if you're not familiar with it, I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, but there's plenty of, well, the original book, there's plenty of movies and different takes on this story. But the character of Ebenezer Scrooge, when we first meet him, is an elderly gentleman who is miserly and miserable. He's wealthy and he's a penny pincher and he's miserable to be around and he's miserable himself. So doesn't start off as a very well liked character. And part of the reason the thought of love and gifts made me think of this story is his story is also a redemption story. And he does turn things around at the end. But in thinking of this story, I decided I wanted to make the soaps that represent the spirits of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. And in some of the versions of the stories, they are called the Ghost of Christmas Past, the Ghost of Christmas Present, and the Ghost of Christmas Future. These characters are brought in by his old former partner who is now dead, and his ghost comes to visit him and says, "You will be visited by three spirits," basically telling him he hasn't been living a very good life and that he needs to change or he's going to end up like him with these very long and heavy chains to drag around. And he's kind of coming as a warning for him. And of course, Scrooge is terrified of ghosts and a little afraid of this. And they're just such neat characters and representing such interesting parts of his life that it was just a masterfully crafted story by Charles Dickens. And I just love the characters. Now, I'm kind of doing them out of order, so I'm going to talk a little at a time about them in and out while I'm making that particular soap. As you see, I started off by putting a layer down for each. The one I'm working on now, which started with a very dark deep blue. I'll get into colors, etc. in my tutorial. I'm just going to give you basic ideas and general notes on what I used. But that dark blue one, I wanted it to feel dark and cold. The fragrance is kind of icy, a little snowy. Again, you'll hear more about that in the full tutorial. But the soap I'm working on now, I had clear, just the layer of clear that has a little tinge of green to it. The clear is kind of representing some clarity. It is also representing, contemporary. In a lot of contemporary design and more modern ideas, you see things appear that have clarity to them. Clear plastic, clear glass. A lot of things made using those because, I mean, they're beautiful. But it's also kind of has a contemporary feel to it. You'll notice I'm pouring in a very bright green in this, not your traditional deeper Christmas green. It's got a little twist to it. And that is because that soap, I want it to feel not traditional. And, you'll see why in a little bit. I'll tell you what each one is. I think you can probably guess. But now I'm back to the blue one, which is I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit. I want some brighter colors in there too. And I want it to have a feeling of the possibility of redemption. I want there to be, it is dark and spooky. It's the scariest ghost of them all. I'll just say it right now. It's the Christmas future. And the Ghost of Christmas Future is just, basically like a, what do you call him? Grim Reaper type character. And showing him his gravestone and all that. And he, of course, is terrified by that and is begging for another chance. And he does get a second chance, which is the redeeming factor in this in this story is he is moved by what he's seen. He's moved by visiting his past, which is what I'm working on right now on the screen. You see a very opulent gold and a darker green, some kind of leaning toward, it was leaning toward kind of a Victorian look. Even though that's the time in which the story took place, this is definitely our past. It is a antique look and vintage look for us. So that's why I chose that darker green there, and that is representing the ghost of Christmas past. And now I'm back to working on what is the soap representing the ghost of Christmas present. I don't know what versions you've seen. One of my favorite versions of A Christmas Carol is Scrooge. I believe it's just called Scrooge. I'm not talking about Scrooged with Bill Murray. That's a fun one too. But this one is the musical version. And the Ghost of Christmas Present sings a song called I Like Life. And his character is very joyous and happy. And he indulges in all kinds of food and beverages and gifts and is just a joyous character. And I wanted not only for the colors to be contemporary, because it is supposed to be present, which compared to the Victorian older type colors, I also wanted those colors to be joyful, representing the joy of life, the milk of human kindness that he gives him to drink, which is part of his redemption. He's redeemed kind of a little bit along the way each time. He starts gaining compassion. So I did, as I'm pouring a little bit of dark blue in that was my final layer, and it was my clear coat, which I always do on top of my marble designs, but I did add a tiny bit of darker blue to deepen it a little. Didn't do a lot, but I think it darkened it a little. Now here comes that rich dark red that to me goes with the Victorian Christmas colors. It just has a rich feel to it. And that is what the image that I got when I thought of Christmases past. And the fragrance has has spice and cranberry, and it has lingonberry, and it's a delicious smelling fragrance, and it is something I blended together, which I'll talk about again in my tutorial, but it feels to me like Christmas is past. Now back to the little bit of sparkle I added. And when I was doing it, I thought, oh no, you added too much. I felt like I added too much, but I think it turned out quite nice. That's a little bit of glitz to me to help represent that joyful life affirming kind of feeling that the Ghost of Christmas Present brings. And I was definitely pleased with the outcome overall once I kind of got past my, oh no, you used too much. And as I'm cutting, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the feeling of these. Again, this was a cold and icy Christmas future because his future was bleak. The future he was shown was very, very bleak. But you also see some glitter in there, a glitter type color, glitter type mica. And that to me is representing the glimmer of hope, a brightness that could still be there in his redemption story, and does show up in his redemption story because he realizes the ways of his past were all focused on money and not on people. In the musical version, he sings a song, and we sing several, but one of his songs was I Hate People. I mean, you can't get much more clear than that about how you feel about people. But his heart is warmed by visiting his past and visiting people in the present who are struggling in current day. He sees some of the current struggles, and his heart is moved by those, which leads to his full redemption in the end. And he just takes that joy of life that the Christmas present shows him the Ghost of Christmas Present, and he goes full on with it, and he throws a big party and buys a big Christmas goose for the Cratchit family, and he sends all kinds of gifts to people and throws a big feast, and uh, it's quite a nice redemption, I believe. I certainly enjoyed it anyway. Um, it's uh, it's a quite a moving story, and can be a lot of fun to watch. But again, these characters, the Ghost of Christmas Past, which you saw me cutting up there, I feel like that's an antique to me. The colors, the marble pattern, felt kind of on the antique side of things. Which I was really thrilled with how I was able to create that marble pattern, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in my tutorial. But this one with its lingonberry and cranberry, and then we have the cooler vibes of the this is your Christmas future, with the sparkles, with the glimmer of hope. And it's dark and it's cold and it's snowy, but it's got a glimmer of hope and a little bit of that brilliant blue behind it, just reminding you things don't always have to go in a bad way. And I was thrilled with the way each of these came out. I was thrilled to be able to make three at once. That was kind of a task that I was challenging myself with, and thanks to the fast melt I was able to do it. It was really helpful to have a bunch of soap ready at hand. And there is a little bit of a close up of my Christmas present. And I will be selling these. I did create them as a gift set. I did want to do that. And I know that the numbers don't match, but I'm also confident that the ones I have a few more of will also sell on their own. I wouldn't put it past me to put those blue ones as kind of a New Year's theme too, because they look a little sparkly into the new year, or just a plain winter theme. They could be relabeled as a lovely winter soap. The fragrance is fabulous. Again, I'll talk a little more about that in my tutorial. You're probably sick of hearing that by now, but I was thrilled with all of these soaps, and I feel like they tied quite well to the story of Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. And there, as I show you the end here, I'll just mention each ghost one more time, and hopefully you'll be interested in doing something like this, or come up with your own idea of a gift set that might work well together. So here we have the Ghost of Christmas Past, the Ghost of Christmas Present, or the Spirit of Christmas Present, and the Spirit of Christmas Future, again with a glimmer of hope. And if you're still here, I thank you so much for watching A Christmas Carol, a soapy Christmas carol. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Thanks. Bye. Hey, everyone. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time if you're new. Jumping right in, I want to thank Two Auto Tools for my Fast Melt 3L. You'll see another one soon that I won as a challenge. But this one was a gift I was given for reviewing. As the little text says, please check out my 6 clay soap video. Talks a lot more about that. I do want to give you a few little pointers throughout this when I have a moment to do so. I guess the first one is what I'm doing right now, and that is I'm checking the temperature. If you were melting wax in this, or a higher melt soap like Stevenson's base, which is this would be absolutely perfect for, then you could just kind of let it go and when it gets to its higher uh, whatever the point is, it stops, or you can put it on hold when it's melted. Um, but I have a different method I use, because I use a lower melt soap, lower melting point. I use Crafter's Choice, and their melting point lies between 120 and 125. So you don't want to get it too hot, and you can in this if you're not careful. But it's pretty easy if you just pay attention because it melts it very fast. Keep checking, check the temperature. Once it's melted or even almost melted, just turn it off. Don't put it to the hold setting. Turn it off. And then as you're going, you'll see it might start to slow down as it's coming out of the spout. That's when just turn it back on for a few minutes. Honestly, it's really simple. I made 3 soaps here, and I kept adding more soap to the vessel or the container that holds the soap in the melter. It does have a heated spout, so that is quite helpful. It only takes a few seconds to heat it up enough for that spout to be pouring if it starts setting up on you. If you're typically doing one soap, it's not going to really, even if you shut it off. That's going to be enough, most likely. But I was doing 3 soaps here, um, so I kind of put it to its limits, if you ask me, and nothing was overheated to a point where it compromised the soap in any way or altered the color. It wasn't fuzzy or foggy. Um, they're great soaps. I've used one of each of the 3 for sure, and a couple more of the top one that you see. I'll be making in the pink mold. So real quick, I kind of want to mention. I mentioned I'll be using another one of these soon because I got one. I won a new one as a prize in a challenge that I um, participated in, and these are the soaps that I did for that challenge. Now the video that I won for is the one that's will be linked at the end. It's more the story. I won a storytelling challenge um, for love and gifts, and I talk a lot more about that and the story behind Scrooge and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, which is what these soaps represent. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I wanted to more share with you things like the colors and the fragrances. So the first color I poured, um, old favorite, or not old favorite, probably new favorite, Spacewalk. I guess it is older. They've been out for a couple years now, maybe. Yeah, because I think one of the first videos I made was using the all of the soaps from the Deep Space collection that Mad Micah's has. Yes, I am affiliated with Mad Micah's, and I will post links in the description box. All of my links to Mad Micah's products are affiliate links. So if you purchase through there, I will receive a small commission. Um, but to back up, I used Spacewalk in that first one, and the fragrance is North Pole for that one. The one I'm about to pour now, um, the fragrance was supposed to just be lingonberry spice from Brambleberry. When it smelled great out of the bottle when I first smelled it, and then when I put it in the soap, it didn't smell horrible at all. It just wasn't quite what I expected. It had a little bit more of a bitterness to it, so I wanted to sweeten it up a little, and so I added a little touch of spiced cranberry from Wholesale Supplies Plus. The combo of that is delicious smelling. Oh my, so good. Um, oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's for the gold one you see me doing now. That's the lingonberry spice, and that's the spiced cranberry. I got confused because I got behind. The one that you saw me pour kind of a clear green in, that one is Sparkling Snowflake from Wholesale Supplies Plus. And the reason it's light green is because I initially was going for clear, going for kind of a glass art, contemporary glass art look in that one. It's Christmas present. You can hear more about my reasoning for that in the storytelling version of mine. A Christmas caroling soap, I think, is something the name of it. But again, it will be linked. Um, The color I just poured, by the way, that gold, I'm pretty sure that's Golden Buddha from Mad Micah's. But the back to the green, it was supposed to be just clear. The fragrance oil, sparkling snowflake, discolored just a tiny bit, not much. It was just a little yellow. So I went to add a little tiny, teensy microscopic bit of blue liquid dye in there, stained glass dye, liquid stained glass colorant is, but it's for soap, not for stained glass. Um, Tiniest bit, and I overblew it, and it was too much. So it kind of made it a green. Kind of looks like Coca-Cola glass to me, so I was fine with that. Looks like that thicker glass that has a little bit of a green tint, and it actually worked beautiful in the soap. So sparkling snowflake is that one. Now I'm adding more of the North Pole to clear, and you'll notice I left the color in the bottom of from the previous pour. I just kept the fragrance going the same with each of these and added more clear because I had that clear constantly melting in the soap melter. Um, but and I let the colorant be in there from the one before. It was never enough to color it to a point where it was going to alter another color, or change it that drastically. And it added a little bit of depth and sparkle, and it was really kind of cool. um, Even though like it wasn't really a plan, I just didn't want to use up 8 million buckets, 8 million pitchers. So so I had the clear with the tiny bit of blue at the bottom, and actually, if you ever wanted to make a soap that was a gorgeous clear soap, use a tiny bit of spacewalk in it. That's the color you'll get. Oh, is it pretty? Um, so in a little side bucket there, little one of the little mini pourers I have right here, um, that is Interstellar. That is hands down my favorite silver. It is so pretty, bright silver, true silver. It doesn't look gray. It doesn't look purplish. It doesn't look bluish. So many of the silvers can be kind of iffy for a color, and this is just beautiful silver. And it does have a lot of sparkle in it too. Um, I'm turning the mold because my table is still not um, balanced. So we'll get there soon. So I just poured all of that in. I did not measure any of these. Um, I go by visually, at least in something like this where I'm having to deal with a lot. I just go by a visual. I wanted it. Um, I knew how thick I wanted them to be basically, and that's it. I just guesstimated. So I'm sorry I can't really give you amounts where it comes to that. I can give you amounts when I'm talking about the fragrance oil because I'm always using um, between 1 and 2%. So with these, it was all 1% across the board. So that is what I did. I'm noticing here while I'm watching as I'm talking, and it may just be my eyes because I have been staring at a computer screen for too long. That looks a little on the yellowish side, that silver that I poured. If that's true on your screen, I promise you that is not. That is a whitish silver. It's just gorgeous. Hopefully you'll see that, and it's just my eyes. This is a really fun technique that I'm going to play more with. It's a version of my marbling, using a stick rather than just the soap to move the soap and um, other colorant in there with soap. Sometimes you'll see me also just use mica and alcohol, but mostly I'm using a heavily colored soap, and pouring a little bit, moving it with the other soap, clear soap that I'm pouring in, or sometimes another color, but usually clear. It makes the best marbling image, in my opinion. And but then I also move it with the stick sometimes, and I've come up with some real um, neat designs that are usually kind of restricted to cold process soap. But I'm learning how to make these designs with melt and pour, and as I'm doing that, I'm trying to share that with you along the journey I'm on, along the path, trying to take you with me. So you'll see me turning that. I turned the pourer. I wanted you to see. I wanted you to see it, get a chance to see how cool that is, just kind of pouring your soap out. And I just used a tiny amount. I probably only poured 1 ounce in there, um, maybe 1.5, and then I just turn it back around. The reason is I had too many things going on the table, or I would have left it forward. I needed it to be on the other side of the table from me, so I wasn't constantly reaching over the other soaps and knocking things over. So that's what that was for this time. Um, the green you saw me pouring that clear in, that is my favorite green. It's from Mad Micah's. Again, I'm pretty sure everything I use in here today was. Um, but it's Crazy Eyes green, and I'm pouring more of the clear, and then I come in with the Crazy Eyes green. It's got a little hint of a gold shimmer when you look at it, or a gold highlight, something like that, like an almost like an interference mica, but it's green, and it's cool. It's really cool. It's really pretty, and uh, I use such a tiny amount, little thin strips of it in here. I'm not sure how well that will show up on camera. How beautiful the colorant is, or the mica is on its own when it's swirling like this, but oh man, it's beautiful. I hope you can see it. I'm looking at it as I'm doing a voiceover. I'm seeing a very tiny screen. So I can't, and that's just the way it is. So I can't really just, tell exactly what you're seeing. I see the basic picture, but I hope you can see how beautiful that green is. It is my favorite. It has, even though it has that gold in it, it has kind of a hint of blue, um, like in the tone itself, like of a seafoam green or something. Anyway, gorgeous, gorgeous green. And that is kind of the in between. I'm picturing it like layers of glass on that one. It was the Ghost of Christmas Present, and that's why I wanted to have a contemporary feel, a green that was not traditional Christmas green. And then you'll see I definitely do a non-traditional red-ish thing for that one. But I think I'm now moving on to a second or a third layer in the Ghost of Christmas Future. Yeah, I am. And the reason I did that, normally I was trying to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and do in order. But the other one, the one in the big pink mold there, it's a big flat mold, and it dries, solidifies faster, hard faster. So I poured a very thick layer in that gold one there that you see, the Ghost of Christmas Past. And I wanted to do it that way. I wanted it to be about half the soap. And so with that, in that little tiny mold like that, it took it a lot longer to dry, because the sides are closer in, or whatever. It prevented the air from flowing in. And yeah, the Ghost of Christmas Future was set up. So that's what I went with. Um, Instead of standing around waiting for the other one to dry, or to set up. So this is Twilight Blue from Mad Micah's. And again, everything else is the same. Clear soap, crystal clear, premium from Wholesale Supplies Plus, Crafter's Choice. That's always my go-to for art soaps. So usually if you see me doing something with a design, it's going to be premium crystal clear. I wanted to use the Twilight Blue to kind of soften the balance between that really super dark spacewalk, which is kind of a navy, and the brilliant silver. I wanted there to be, I loved the design, and I thought about leaving it alone and just adding clear on top, but I wanted a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more of some kind of mid-tone in there. Um, the idea of the soap, if you watch the other one, you see a little bit more. I was going for the coldness of Christmas Future, and the future that he shows to Scrooge. So it's going for icy and snowstorm, and uh, just kind of a darkness, and but with a glimmer of hope, which is why the silver and the sparkle, because he does have some redemption toward the end of the story. But so that's why I put the Twilight in there, and I think it came out really nice, um, with that. But now we're headed toward skipping kind of over to the Ghost of Christmas Past here. Um, I have a big boo boo here, but I fix it. So I kind of left that in. I didn't show you the whole fix because, like, you don't want to see me scraping for a while. That's boring. But I'm fairly certain that there's a couple of things that can make the design type of thing that I'm talking about, the marble design, where I'm pulling the stick through and make it look like, well, either like what I did in that um, soap with the Interstellar with that silver, that kind of a design, or like a peacock squirrel. I don't know if you've ever seen a peacock squirrel. Blah, not squirrel, Terry. Swirl. Peacock swirl is a type of swirl used in cold processed soap. And it was kind of going to emulate that, not quite, but that same marbling type of design. And the first, oh, this isn't where I mess up. So, spoiler alert, I mess up later. I wasn't really even going for that kind of design with this. It's just after I poured a little and then I drew my stick through it, it did it on its own. It kind of just did. And I was like, ooh, I can do that. Ooh. And then so I went a little further with it and played with it and found one of the ways to mess it up. So that first one, yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's perfect. It's beautiful. I love that kind of a design. It looks like the old marbled paper, but yeah, I mess it up later, and then I fix it, so it becomes one of my favorite soaps I've ever made. I think it really, really is cool, at least for a swirl. Um, and I think, yeah, now like I said, I'm out of order. I wanted to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but that didn't work out. So we're at number 2 now, and that is the Ghost of Christmas Present, where I'm going for the contemporary look. Um, a little flashier, full of joy. The Christmas present in the story of Scrooge is very joyful and loves life and all that kind of good stuff. And so that's kind of what I was going for with this vibe. Um, and I'm pouring more of the clear. I tried to keep up that greenish image in the clear. Um, by adding a little bit. Oh, I don't know if yeah, I did. I did. It's not as pronounced as in the first one, but I added a little bit of that liquid blue throughout. But this is Voodoo pink red or red pink, whichever it is. It's gorgeous. And I just poured about maybe a quarter of an inch of a thickness of that clear and poured that Voodoo in at, from the same bucket of soap. So it was a similar temperature, probably a little lower because I had to stir that mica in, and just gently swirled it, and it just stays. If you do it at the correct temperature, which you're going to have to experiment with your own soap, but if you do it at not too hot, not too cold, you're going to get a nice swirl, and then you can spritz it with alcohol. Spritz very lightly and from far away, or you're going to mess your swirl up. Just very gently, if you think it's needed, especially if you happen to see a bubble. You could always pop that bubble with a knife if you needed to. If it gets too much alcohol, it's going to move that mica. So this was just kind of a top coating for the Christmas future. I wanted to darken it just a tad. I didn't have to do that, but I had the colorant already and the soap already melted from the first layer, and I just went with it. So I just swirl it in a little bit. It really barely makes a difference, but up close you could kind of see some thin strips of the darker blue going over top. I think it changed it just barely, but either way, it was still my clear top coat. As you see, I think I pour a little bit more while it's still a wet layer. So just kind of covering everything. Uh, and that's basically what you get for the ending of that one until you see it cut. That I don't add more layers to it, in other words. So It came out to be a really stunning soap, um, as you'll see in the pictures in the end. And I really the fragrance is cool and kind of effervescent, very eucalyptusy and lemony, and has some, like I said, effervescent notes. It's kind of like Christmas soda. I don't know. I don't know what else to think of it. It's not fully Christmas because it's more eucalyptusy and minty, watery vibes than anything, but it certainly worked for this. And I definitely enjoy that fragrance and I enjoy this soap a lot because I have a bar at my sink right now. Okay, and I think we're moving on. Yeah, I'm moving on to the disaster now. Um, yeah, I wanted a Victorian-ish red and green. That's what I was going for over that beautiful opulent gold. That was my idea. That was my image for that. Um, and I start off with I blended Flirt Pink, which is my favorite, and I think I with that was with Angry Tomato, I think. And it wasn't the color that was the problem. I definitely added too much alcohol in that colorant, and that is why it spread so far, so fast. It was covering the design. I wasn't thrilled with the shade. That was my own doing. I fixed that, but the worst part of it to me, the reason I felt like I had to fix it was how far it was just covering up the whole design. And I didn't like that, and I didn't want to. I figured I could do better if I moved quickly. I could get that soap off of there, and get down to kind of just back to the green layer and start from there. And it actually does work. If you move quickly with something like that, you can, because the previous part of it underneath was all set up. So it's not like I was going to hurt the lower part. I knew that, so I knew it would only be destroying the part I had just added. And it wasn't totally destroyed. It made the soap. I poured it just in one of the pitchers because I didn't have a mold sitting off side. Sometimes I do for over pour, or if you end up with too much of something and you pour it in a little mold and you have a little soap or a little sample soap or whatever. I poured it in the bucket because it was the closest thing I had and I was in a hurry. And then I scraped it with a rubber, not rubber, silicone spatula, scraped it really well. I did, you off camera, I spritzed it very thoroughly with alcohol and wiped it with some paper towels and then spritzed it again. I just wanted to have every trace of that pinkish off of there. Um, I opted to go the second round with the, I still think I used the spicy tomato. No, I used True Red and Flirt, I believe, in this go round. And maybe spicy tomato too combined. I don't know. I'm not even positive. But what it made um good job, Terry. What it ended up making was more of a true Victorian red, kind of like a brick red or a cranberry. Since there was spiced cranberry in the fragrance as well, I thought that would work well with it. Um, anyway, I also made sure that I didn't have too much alcohol in the mica and that it wasn't too hot, because sometimes temperature can do that same thing. If either the base temperature that you're like that clear that I just poured, the base I'm swirling in, if that's too hot, or if your little extra color that you're putting in to swirl is too hot, it can do that same thing. It can spread too far. Um, so just be aware of what your temperatures are. Have them, fairly close to each other, whereas in a regular swirl, you want them far apart from each other. Um, but this one, more alike. You certainly don't want one way hotter than the other, or it's going to bleed and spread out. But I think it looked cool. I did the little strips of red were a little thinner than I might have wanted, but I didn't want to mess with it. I it was better than the first time, and it came out beautiful. It'll be I think more apparent when it's completely solidified and cut up, but I mean, they came out gorgeous. The gold underneath that golden Buddha just glows through the rest. It's so pretty. It's quite a beautiful soap. And then I have one last layer I'm working on here, and I don't believe I come back to the Christmas past, the Victorian looking one. I don't think I go back to that and put an extra clear layer over. Normally I would. I think I had just gotten so flustered with that moment there because you kind of panic when something like that goes wrong. And if you act fast, you can certainly fix it. But I was still a little bit panicked enough to where I didn't think to go back and put over a clear layer. Also, I had just done 3 soaps and it was very exhausting. This video took us forever to film. It was just a lot. Um, I did it to myself. I wanted to see if I could do 3 soaps. And once I got the idea to do the Ghosts of Christmas or the Spirits of Christmas, past, present, and future, then I really wanted to do them all at once. I don't know why, but I did. I guess it was just timing, just being able to have it done and enter it into the challenge that that I received a little award for. I was really thrilled with that, by the way. Thank you to Auto Tools. What a wonderful set of challenges. They did several throughout the fall, and um, most of the people in those challenges were making candles, and I've got to tell you, they were some stunning candles in there. And I just feel like it was hard for me to compete with that. And I think if I hadn't told an interesting story, I might not have had anything, which would have been fine too. That last layer, while I'm starting to cut uh, the Ghost of Christmas Future here, that last little layer on the Ghost of Christmas Present, that's just my favorite Sunshine Sparkle in clear. And it was just drizzling it and swirled it a little, and then I marbled a little bit more with using the clear soap to move it, partially because I thought there was going to be too much glitter. I tend to go overboard sometimes with glitter, and I wanted some spaces with no glitter. So I poured and kind of was making holes in that with clear. So it wasn't just the entire surface covered with gold. And again, that's going for a very joyful, celebratory character that the Ghost of Christmas Present is. Honestly, these soaps don't have to be Christmas. That's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is just the designs themselves. You can switch the colors. Really the only one that screams Christmas is the past, Ghost of Christmas Past. The blue and silver could be anything. That doesn't have to be Christmas. And the pink and green, honestly, that doesn't look super Christmassy to me. I was going for a very contemporary look with it, and if you have Christmas in mind, it works great. But it also is just a really pretty soap. Um, but you can do these with any colors. You don't need to use mine. I would like to try over the next several months. I've got a lot going that I'm trying to make as far as videos go for you. And down the road, I want to do a series on creativity. And I think something I try to encourage you to do overall is to think for yourself and to come up with what you want. My colors came out very pretty to me, but you might not like blue and silver together, or you might not like pink and green. So look at my horrible cutting. Oh man. You see yeah, that's just like spread out. I didn't even have it. Anyway, they mostly came out rectangular and really pretty. I didn't see any look real wonky with these, which I know I just told you in another soap because I just recorded one and said that same thing because I am not great at cutting. So there's that. I do bevel these. I'm beveling. I only bevel the first set fully, I think. Or maybe I do bevel them all and then I come back and only pick up a few of each because we were so tired. Mr. Soaps and such and I, we were, because he has to help me with the recording part of it. I'm not that technically savvy. Um, And we were exhausted. We had been in the studio all day, and we hadn't had dinner, and it was late at night, and my back was hurting. We were so tired. I was just done. Um, but I went ahead and beveled them anyway, mostly I think because I wanted to see what they looked like with the beveling. And it's easier to me to do a bunch in a row rather than coming back later to it. I thought to myself, I'll never come back to it. I'll never get them. I mean, I would have eventually, but to get them wrapped and all that good stuff and ready to sell, I probably would not have done that. Um, but as I was beveling them, that's one of the moments to me you can really take a good look at what you've gotten and what you've done. And I was so pleased with the way that soap came out. With all three of these, really. To go back to as I'm cutting these, I want to go back a little bit to my fast melt and to auto tools. Um, they ask me, what do you want to see in a soap melter? They want your feedback. So if you use materials from them or order, be sure to give them your feedback for what you could use. Helpful feedback, not just criticism, but constructive criticism. They're very open to working with people. And by the way, I love the way this soap looks upside down. I'm sorry, it just looks too cool. It looks neat. I almost liked it better than the front, but not quite. Um, but I believe they are working toward possibly some better controls with temperature that are geared more toward melt and pour soap, lower temp melt and pour soap. But as you see, I worked with very low melt and pour, ugh, very low temperature melt and pour soap with this, and I really didn't struggle with temperature with these, not once. But I was very cognizant of it because I know it's a wax melter and I know it goes up. I think it goes to 180 at its highest, but I didn't let it get up that high. I turned it off when the soap was melted. Just keep checking. And then I turned it back on when it started. If it started giving me a little bit of, of a clue that it needed to go back on, which to me was it wasn't pouring well as well when I turned the thing because it's a heated spout. So that has to be heated for it to pour freely. When it wasn't pouring freely, I turned it back on. Immediate fix. It was great. It was really a good experience. Anyway, and this isn't paid. They asked me for my opinion. They did give me the product, but it was um, for a review. I could have said whatever I wanted, but it's a neat product. I believe. Um, Here, I'm just beveling the last of these, and you're going to get to see some close ups. But I guess what I was starting to say about the melt, fast melt. I'm sorry, my mouth is done talking today. um, is it's also pretty easy to clean, but you want to clean it right away. You don't want to wait too long. Wait till it cools off a little bit and pour in some warm water and you let it sit a little bit. You turn it on, stir around, put a bucket underneath, pour it out. I did that twice and it was uh perfectly clean. Just like it came out like a dream. So there's that. Easy cleanup, easy setup. Just plug and turn on. Put your soap in it first. You don't want to turn it on empty. That's not real smart. I would think you would know that, but you never know. Just like with safety rules, you always want to say, be careful. It's hot. Um, it's overall like the top was never hot. The handle was never hot. The only thing that was ever hot was the spout, and they warn you about that. And you just only touch the handle of the spout, not the spout itself, because it's heated. That is a gorgeous soap. I'm not bragging. I'm just happy. I was so thrilled with how that came out. A lot of times in soap, especially something free and loose like this, you don't have ultimate control of how it comes out. You're a little bit beholden to the soaping gods, but it just came out just what I wanted with all of these. Um, Again, this is the Ghost of Christmas Future. Dark, cold, scary, but with a glimmer of hope. That was my thought. And you'll have all the colorants listed in the description box for each one of these. the Ghost of Christmas Present. Um, what a cool looking soap. It is, again, it's what I wanted it looks to me like glass art, contemporary glass art, or even older Italian glass art, something like that. And I love it. I love the way these came out. And even though, like I said, that discolored very slightly and was very easy to fix with the blue. Yes, it became a little bit green because I put too much blue, but it was a gorgeous color. And you still, nothing's hidden there. You can see everything. And it smells delicious, by the way, the Sparkle Snowflake. And this one, lingonberry spice and spiced cranberry. And one of the most beautiful designs I think I've ever done in a swirl or a marble or whatever you want to call that. I don't know. I love it so much. And I'm hoping that you can see as I'm holding these up and trying to get the light just right because we've been struggling a little bit with the lights. But as I'm doing that, can you see the gold kind of glowing through? It's not really a sparkly gold, but I mean, it is a mica, so there's a little bit of sparkle to it for sure. But it just glows to me. I don't know. Maybe tell me if I'm dreaming. Tell me if I'm seeing things. But I think it was just perfect. Um, I thank you so much for dropping by and spending some time with me and to watch me uh, go crazy trying to make 3 soaps at once. It's a lot, but it was kind of a fun challenge. I thought of it as a little bit of a challenge to myself, and I was very pleased with the outcome. I hope you had a chance to learn something through all of my ramblings here. And I hope you'll try something like this. Doesn't have to be my design or my exact ideas, but feel free to do that too. Just tag me. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for stopping in. Thanks. Bye.